Understanding BRICS' challenge to US economic power. In recent years, the global economic landscape has undergone a dramatic transformation. One of the most striking developments is the rise of the BRICS bloc: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, as a counterweight to US and Western economic dominance. What started as a loose coalition of emerging economies has now evolved into a powerful platform aiming to reshape global financial systems, trade relations, and geopolitical influence. A shift from the Western economic order. For decades, the United States has held the central position in the global economic hierarchy. The dominance of the US dollar, the influence of Western-led institutions like the IMF and World Bank, and the reach of American corporations have all ensured Washington's economic leverage over much of the world. However, BRICS nations collectively represent more than 40% of the world's population and nearly 1/3 of global GDP in purchasing power parity terms. With this immense economic weight, they are no longer content to remain subordinate to a system designed and controlled by the West. De-dollarization, the core of the challenge. One of the most significant threats BRICS poses to US economic hegemony is its push for de-dollarization, reducing reliance on the US dollar in international trade and finance. Several BRICS countries, especially Russia and China, have already begun settling energy and commodity deals in local currencies. This move is not just symbolic, it directly undermines the dollar's global reserve status, which has long allowed the US to print money and run massive deficits without severe economic consequences. If more nations follow BRICS' lead, the dollar's monopoly could weaken, eroding America's financial influence. The New Development Bank, NDB, an alternative power center. To counter the dominance of Western financial institutions, BRICS established the New Development Bank, NDB, in 2015. Unlike the IMF and World Bank, which often impose stringent conditions on borrowing nations, the NDB promotes development financing without political strings attached. This model is particularly attractive to countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, seeking infrastructure investment and financial independence. The expansion of the NDB's membership, with nations like Egypt, Bangladesh, and the UAE joining, signals growing global confidence in the BRICS framework. China and India, rivals within a revolution. Despite internal differences, particularly between China and India, both nations understand the strategic importance of reducing Western economic control. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, complements the BRICS agenda by connecting emerging economies through infrastructure, trade, and finance, while India's digital and service sectors give the bloc intellectual and technological depth. Their combined growth is rewriting the narrative of global power. For the first time in modern history, the future of global economics may not be decided in Washington, London, or Brussels, but in Beijing, New Delhi, and São Paulo. A geopolitical challenge, not just economic BRICS, is more than an economic alliance. It's a geopolitical statement. The bloc's coordinated actions signal frustration with Western double standards on sanctions, trade policies, and global governance. With Russia facing Western sanctions and China confronting US containment strategies, BRICS has become a platform for expressing collective resistance to Western dominance. The group's recent discussions about creating a common BRICS currency and expanding membership to include oil-rich nations like Saudi Arabia and Iran show an ambition that extends beyond economics. It's about building a multipolar world where no single power dictates the rules. Can BRICS truly dethrone the dollar? While BRICS' ambitions are bold, the path is steep. The dollar remains deeply entrenched in global finance, trade settlements, and central bank reserves. Trust in US financial stability, transparency, and liquidity still outweighs confidence in any emerging alternative. However, gradual change is already visible. As the US uses its currency as a weapon, through sanctions and financial exclusion, more nations are motivated to seek alternatives. If BRICS maintains unity and continues building parallel systems, a slow but steady erosion of US economic dominance could become inevitable. Conclusion: the dawn of economic multipolarity, the challenge. BRICS presents to US economic power is not a passing trend. It's the beginning of a new era. The world is shifting from a unipolar order dominated by Washington to a multipolar system where power is shared among diverse centers of influence. Whether BRICS ultimately dethrones the US dollar or not, its rise has already changed the conversation. The developing world no longer seeks validation from the West. it seeks independence. And that, more than anything, is the true challenge to American economic supremacy.